Future's ILT One Pass Install Kit. Today, I'm gonna pop in some fin boxes and I'm gonna show you how to do it. So Futures has their own proprietary fin box. And to perfectly cut out that fin box, Futures has their own proprietary super cool router bit. Boom and boom. This is the old generation. I've used these 60, 70, maybe 80 boards. Absolutely love them. But they're getting a little bit dull. Futures has innovated. They've redesigned these bits and enter generation 2. This is their brand new hardened steel, aluminum titanium nitride coated router bits. These are super cool bits. So what makes these bits special is their coating. They have a titanium aluminum nitride coating that makes them extra hard and extra resistant to wear. So these guys should stay sharper a lot longer than the old ones, hopefully. And if you want to see, I have a whole video going in depth on these. I'll link it above right here. One really important thing to know. So I've got the older first generation kit and I recently just upgraded to the new second gen bits. But if you notice, there's actually a height difference. Here the cutting surfaces are the same, but look how it stands when it's actually in the router. The new bits are actually 3 mils shorter than the old bits, specifically just the 1/2 and the 3/4 inch bits. An easy way of adjusting for this is wrap the bit in tape. I found a couple of washers that are exactly 3 mils thick, slot the washers on, and then cut the tape at that 3 mil mark. And then when you put the router bit in, you just slot it right to the end of the tape. The new leash plug bit is actually 1 mil shorter, but no need to change anything. So you pop in your router bits into the router. How do you actually route your fin boxes? The kit comes with a router sled. So once you mark your fin boxes, you know exactly where they're gonna be. You take your router sled and it has this cool marking jig, little crosshairs. You line up the crosshairs just perfectly and position the router sled. Once the jig's in place, you wanna make sure that the jig is perfectly level. You don't want any part of the fin box being routed a little bit deeper. So Futures has fixed this problem with 2 things. The Timmy tool and included EVA shims, little foam pads. So once you're all lined up, you take the tool and you want this sled to be evenly spaced 8 mils vertically from the surface of the board. So you very carefully just take this tool and trace out the perimeter of the sled. So if one side is a little bit low, you take your EVA shim, prop that side up a bit until everything is perfectly equal at 8 mils. Next thing, the router. So these kits are designed to work with 2 different routers. I have the Makita RT0701C. Absolutely love this router, it's amazing. It's also compatible with the Makita 3709. Your router just perfectly slips into this nice little sleeve. And what's cool about this sleeve, the sleeve fits perfectly into the router sled, and then you just turn it on and run it back and forth. So after you set your fin boxes, it's really important that you make sure your fins are properly canted. Different fin setups will have different cants. If you look, your fins are actually offset at a slight angle. So your typical thruster setup, the central fin is at 0 degrees, just vertical, and the 2 side fins are about 6 degrees. For thrusters on little squatty boards, say a little fish, they're typically more vertical. They might only be at 4 and then 3 degrees. So that just depends, that totally varies by board. What Futures has included is these cool dummy fins. So mine are all covered in resin from fiberglassing them in. So you've routed your board, you pour in some resin, you pop in your fin box, pop in the fin, and then you measure how far the fin is canted to the side to make sure it's right. If you need to change it a little bit, you just tape it up and hold it in place while it cures. So once you've done all your fin boxes, leash plug. So Futures has their own proprietary leash plugs. I really like these. I personally am pretty biased. I like these more than FCS. Once again, the benefit of these is they have a flange. So just more surface area underneath that fiberglass, keeping it from getting ripped out. So I think they're a lot stronger. So if you want to do leash plugs, there's a separate kit. This isn't included in the ILT. The leash plug kit. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Comes with 1 more router sleeve, a jig plate, and a tiny little crosshair target. Super cool. I'm really biased, but I love the Future system and couldn't recommend it enough. So let's route this board. So this is the Terry Sennett fin marking gauge. I absolutely love this thing, it's amazing. And today we're gonna do a nice little thruster. Basic thruster. This is my buddy's 5.9 Samurai. He started to paint it. It's not finished painting yet, but we're gonna pop in the fin boxes all the same. So for basic thruster, you line this up right down the stringer. I'm going to place the back fin at 3.5 inches, put a little mark, and 12 inches. So this is asymmetric. There's a nose and a tail. Make sure you have them in the right orientation. I line up my back mark with the back crosshair. Perfect match. So I'm running the 8mm section of the Timmy tool along the periphery, and I'm noticing it's nowhere near high enough. So I'm gonna have to elevate this entire router plate. Perfect. For the two side fins on a thruster board, make sure you have the right bit in the right fin boxes. We want 3/4 inch. For the center fin, the 1/2 inch fin box and the 1/2 inch router bit. So some guys will throw tape around the jig plate to help hold it in place. I just very carefully hold it with one hand, try not to rock it side to side as I plane. The sides are pretty easy because it's just in foam. Where it becomes more tricky is when you're actually routing through the wooden stringer. So this isn't as important when you're just routing through pure foam, but for best results, I make multiple shallow passes where I slowly increase the depth of cut each pass. That's what we're going for. Before I move the plate, I always pop in a fin box and just make sure that everything's perfect and A-OK. Look how tight and crispy this route is. The fin box just perfectly sits in there. The flange is perfectly flush. So here the back of the router jig was a little bit low. I'm incrementally moving that shim a little bit closer, raising that back higher and higher. If one shim isn't enough, you can always fold it and double it up. Okay, just double checking, everything's right where I want it. After adjusting, always recenter your fin box and check everything one more time. When I'm cutting, I like to turn the power off and let it come to a complete stop before I pull the router out. Okay, one thing, quick pause. When you're changing router bits, make sure you unplug the router. About a year ago, my buddy was changing bits. We were all excited, we were sort of rushing, and we didn't check to make sure it was unplugged. It turned on, my buddy accidentally flipped the power switch when he was changing bits, and it turned on with his fingers right there. It cut his index fingers.
Popping in some fin boxes like a champ. Damien's back with a few stitches.
And we rushed to the hospital. He got 13 stitches. It was horrible. And he's an orthopedic surgeon, so he could have ended his career if he had lost his fingers. Luckily, he didn't lose his fingers. They're fine, and he still has all his sensation. So words of caution, be safe out there. Helpful hint, maybe it's just me, but my router always seems to get stuck right here. I found that just gently twisting the router helps coax it along. When routing the stringer, I like to stop halfway and blow out the debris that's accumulated. sometimes that debris, when it's getting rocketed out, can actually sort of tear the foam. Probably doesn't matter, but I think it looks bad. So for the leash plug, I do things a little bit different. I actually just take the leash plug, I position it about 1 inch from the back of the board. I take the jig plate and I center it roughly. Then I take the little crosshairs guide, pop it on. You can see I'm a little bit off. Reposition it to get it perfectly centered over the stringer. And then I route. Beautiful, look at that route. Stay tuned if you want to see more content. Comment below if you have any questions or you have any ideas of other videos you'd like me to make. Like and subscribe, much thanks. See you in the lineup. The Jimmy tool. Jimmy tool or Timmy tool?